People of Earth, this is the Great Goonan Podcast. I am the Great Goonan and I am here with Mr. Don Sill.
What's up, everybody?
Today we are going to talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Boogie, boogie, boo. That's right, because there's been a new report in the news that some new findings have been found regarding the Dead Sea Scrolls, including a document that was thought to be a forgery is now considered to be authentic, and the poor bastard who was accused of forging it killed himself a long time ago, and now they go, whoopsie, it's true. So the Dead Sea Scrolls are coming out. Did you read that? Did you read the things that have been going on with the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Yeah, I saw that they've uncovered and discovered some new pieces of the scroll. And it is like, it's cool because it's whenever you uncover things, these archaeologists, it just proves that this stuff was really happened. You know what I mean? Because a lot of it seems like myth or folklore. And then when they start to uncover these scrolls and put them together, it's just amazing. It's amazing how they do it too. How they find these little pieces of these fragments of the scroll and start piecing it together and bringing out the words, and you start to be able to read it.
Well, it proves at least that people have been writing and believing this stuff for a long time. You know, that's what it at least proves. By the way, archaeologists, I usually think of archaeologists as being like Indiana Jones or something like that, but it's not Indiana Jones. So for the people who are out there who don't know, let me explain what the Dead Sea Scrolls are real quickly. So the Dead Sea Scrolls are these written documents recorded on parchment or papyrus, not rolling papyrus, but just papyrus, that were found at the, I think it's called Qumran ruins in Israel near the Dead Sea. Oddly enough, found in 1946 originally in an archaeologist's find, right after the end of the Third Reich of Nazism, which tried to exterminate the Jews, and right before the formation of the Israeli state in 1948. So it's funny that all these things were found right in between someone trying to annihilate the Jewish history and then these sort of Jews get their own land type of thing that happened in 1948. And the Dead Sea Scrolls are a lot of different documents. They were found in ceramic jars inside a cave. A little fella, Arab fella, he threw, or a Palestinian fellow, I guess, threw like a rock and it fell into this cave and he heard it hit like a ceramic thing. So he's like, oh my goodness, you know, and I don't know what his name was, but for the sake of this, let's just call him Ben Ali Baba. And he went into the cave, and then all of a sudden it started this whole archaeological dig. These ceramic, most of the ceramic jars that they found in the cave were full of dirt, or if you would, soil. But then there was one jar that had all these scrolls in it. Most of the scrolls are the Hebrew Bible, the oldest recording of the Hebrew Bible. It's thought to be that these scrolls are from the end of the 1st century or the 2nd century. They also had some scrolls were of teachings and practices that they thought were for the Jewish people of the time, including the Essenes, who were this radical group of Jewish priests who were I guess they were like very radical. The only men were allowed in the group, and they were all they banished anybody they considered sinners. They lived as vegetarians, and they were, long before Catholic priests, they were celibate priests, and which probably means those Jews probably came up with the expression "oy vey," because that is the noise anybody would make when they can't eat a steak and their nut is full of liquid because they can't let out. You know,
that's what I always thought. Yeah,
of course. And I'm sure most Judaica, modern day Judaica, will back me up. And then the other scrolls that were found that weren't either the Bible or sort of like practices of the day were these non-canon apocryphal books of the Bible that centuries ago, back in the 1st century and whatnot, were considered to be the things that people followed and learned from, but are not considered part of the Bible today. Like the book of Enoch, and that's not to be confused with Enoch, who was the lizard man from Land of the Lost, who could speak and could ward off the sleestack. I'm not talking about that fellow. I'm talking about Enoch, the book of Enoch. And I think we can honestly say, Don, I mean, no matter what your background is, you know, we have our friend Danielle. We know how she's Jewish. You're Catholic. I am a Nelsonian. I worship Willie Nelson. So no matter what background you are, you do have to agree that the Bible is probably the most influential book in our history. It has shaped society and societies.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, and anything that came out of Israel and that Jerusalem area spawned off the three main religions, which was like Judaism, Catholicism, and Muslimism. And also
Muslimism. Yes, Islam.
yeah.
Yes. Right. Judaism begat Christianity, begat Islam, and it is said that these scrolls, although they don't have anything in them that are directly associated with Christ or Christianity per se, they are thought to be of the end of the first century into the second century, which would be the time of Christianity's beginnings, of Christ and Christianity's beginnings. So these would be the Jews who wrote these things and recorded these things at the onslaught of the beginning of the spread of Christianity. And the big thing about Christianity, which is really like, who starts Christianity? Really like Paul starts Christianity, if you think about it. Christianity, the difference between Christianity and Judaism, other than later on, obviously things become different, is the idea that non-Jews were allowed to join. That's the main thing that was the change in Christianity, that non-Jews were allowed to join, and then it became a religion thought of for everybody. And that's the way to get the asses in the seats.
That's right. You got to open the doors up. You know, to me too, I think that they're starting to decipher some of those scrolls. And some of the stuff, you know, I think they found an old drawing in there of that Dr. Seuss did. I think they're going to cancel the scrolls. That's I think it's going to happen.
The Messiah in the hat. Well, see, the funny thing is that so they have a lot of the Hebrew Bible is a lot of the scrolls, but it's just one of the oldest, thought of the oldest version of the Hebrew Bible, and they mostly have, like, they focus on like Deuteronomy, the book of Deuteronomy, which is a very serious book, except for the duty part of Deuteronomy. But if you remember, Deuteronomy Deuteronomy is sort of referred to when you talk of like Hebraic scholars as having layers. So the first layer of Deuteronomy is actually a belief that there are many gods, but that the God of Abraham is the main God, is the God of gods, is the number one fellow. And then later on, Deuteronomy in different layers starts to become monotheistic, where there is only one God. But the original stuff has it that way. So that's very interesting too. I always found this interesting, and we agree that the Bible is probably the most influential book in history. We thought it was Gilbert Gottfried's Rubber Balls and Liquor. That's the second most important book. The first one, obviously, is the Bible of the Jews and the Christians, which basically spawned off Islam later on too. So what I was interested in was how the Dead Sea Scrolls always had these books in the Bible. You know, if you get a book, I have a copy of the Bible that has what is known as the Apocrypha. Do you know what the Apocrypha is?
No, what's that?
The Apocrypha is the collection of books of the Bible that are not part of the canon, but they are books like the Book of Enoch or the book of Luke Skywalker. No. There are many different books of the Bible that were, but they're not part of the Bible now. But they were once huge parts of the Jewish and therefore Christian teachings of the first and second century and stuff like that. Like the Book of Enoch. If you remember Enoch, Enoch, not Enoch. Enoch is the Sleestack-looking fellow. He's actually a centurion, and he helped Will and Holly Marshall and all those people in Land of the Lost. That's a different.
He was awesome.
Right. That we already know is true. But this is different. This is the Bible. So the book of Enoch was once, and Enoch is mentioned in the Bible. He's mentioned in, I think, Genesis, and he's mentioned as being somebody who was a great man, and then the phraseology is, I think he then became one with God and went away. Who knows what that means? But if you read the book of Enoch, which is available, you should get a Bible that says it includes the Apocrypha also, because they usually put it as an appendix at the end of the Bible because it's not part of the canon. But you're looking that up now?
I just wrote down Enoch. I want to check that. I want to look that up later.
That's Enoch. Enoch. So Enoch is thought of to be the great grandfather of Noah, and Enoch is said to have written. If you read the book of Enoch, he has it's like a lot of books inside the book of Enoch. The book of the Watchers, which are these creatures who are God creatures who come down from heaven and mate with human beings. So it's like the idea of angels mating with human beings. So it's almost like, and then there's this ancillary theory that like prophets like Noah are considered to be half God, half angel, half human. Not very different from the old Greek mythology of like Hercules being the son of a human and the son of a God, or Barack Obama being black and white. I mean, really. But so things like that. But so the book of Enoch is one of those things. And the book of Enoch is also not only part of the Apocrypha, but it's apocalyptic. It is one of the early books that used to be part of regular teachings in the first and second century that is all about when God will come back, maybe the end of the world, and begins the idea that there will become one day a great Messiah. So these are things that were always in old Hebrew or Jewish writing that wasn't wasn't finally accepted in the version of the Bible that we read now. You don't have messianic prophecy in the Old Testament that we know of now, and I think it's only Daniel in the Old Testament that gets referred to as the Son of Man long before there is a Jesus. Jesus in the New Testament, in the Gospels, refers to Enoch, or Enoch is referred to in the Gospels. I don't know if Jesus mentions him. So there's a weird connection to these books that aren't accepted as part of the canon, but used to be a big part of the Bible. And I've studied this only as an atheist could, but I've studied it. I mean, I do. I've studied all these things, even though I'm not. I'm a Nelsonian. I worship Willie Nelson, but
when you see stuff like this with the Dead Sea Scrolls and all that stuff, as an atheist or a Nelsonian, does it start to make you believe, or do you just think that it was all misconception, or like, I'm just curious of like what your thoughts are as kind of like a non-believer.
Well, we approached it two different ways. You said it's proof that this stuff is real, and I said it's proof that people believed it that long ago. So there isn't any proof that any of the magic of the Bible is true. Other than the fact that like Urkel had a career, there has to be a God. But other than that, Yeah,
because I think that again, I'm always have doubt about certain things, but I do believe Jesus existed, and whether or not he
and you mean Jesus H.
Son of God.
You mean Jesus H. Christ. You don't mean a fellow on 3rd Avenue in Brooklyn named Jesus who gives you the snow.
Yeah, not Jesus.
There's the fellow who gives you the snow cones with the shaver. He shaves the ice and he gives you the snow cones and he goes here. You're not talking about that fellow.
He also makes miracles. He made shaved ice into wine once, and it was amazing.
Well, I guess you've convinced me. No, but
yeah.
So you believe that you believe that Jesus, well, you said you're a Catholic, so I mean, I was raised a Catholic
Yeah.
also. By the way, the idea that Christianity, the reason why Christianity started to spread and the reason why it broke off from Judaism was really because they were allowing non-Jews to join, that you didn't have to be a Jew to become a Christian.
Right.
And it became universal. Thus, what is the definition of the word Catholic? Is universal. That's the definition of the word Catholic. That is the actual dictionary definition of the word Catholic, universal. So it is interesting. And the most prominent and, let's say, successful version of Christianity is probably still the Catholic Church.
So far.
So far. I mean, I'm trying to start one where we're all Nelsonians, but, you know.
Because Nelsonian does have a Christ-like vibe. You know, he's got the hair, the skinny body, and the beard going for him. And, you know, he could perform miracles, too. I've seen him once turn an ounce into a pound. That was pretty amazing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You see, we're both believers of that. But you believe that Jesus was the child of God.
I definitely believe he existed and was a real person.
No.
Now, the Son of God stuff.
Child of God. You believe he was the Messiah. You have to if you believe in Catholicism.
I do. I believe in that, but like I told you, I do believe that ultimately, but I do always have a little bit of doubts about things. So, but just what can be proven was that he did exist and that he claimed to be the Son of God, and then the Romans didn't like that, and they killed him after torturing him and everything. And what really made Jesus stand out above the others that claimed the same type of thing was that he rose from the dead.
His luxurious hair, and swimmer's physique.
Yeah, he had the beautiful hair, right? Yeah, and then so the fact that he rose from the dead was what made. Like that was the catalyst for really Christianity. That's what made him Jesus.
Now the idea of being raised from the dead, the idea of resurrection, is a Jewish idea. In the true belief of Judaism, you know, they don't believe in heaven. They believe in resurrection, that you're going to come back to life one day. Not that there is a heaven per se. You know that,
right? Yeah.
Do you know
I
that?
have heard of that. I have a portion of my family is Jewish.
Yeah, well, I mean, providing whether or not they are really people who studied it. Like I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish community. I grew up in an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood. So that's a little different from just like, you know, your friend Max. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like there's plenty just like there's plenty of Catholics who aren't really practicing, like most of the Catholics I grew up with, you know, had sex before marriage, don't care about abortions, you know, don't care about homos, you know, things like are homos, you know, it doesn't matter. So it's not, they don't really care about those things, but that is true. Resurrection is a Jewish idea. That's why it wasn't so far-fetched back then that Lazarus would rise from the dead or something like that. Also, since you're a Catholic, we're getting a little off topic, and we're going to go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls. But since you're a Catholic, I want to test you on something that most people. I was raised Catholic. Most people who I've met who are Catholic, even I dated a real diehard Catholic girl who even taught catechism at a church school called the Church of the Immaculate Conception, and she didn't know what the Immaculate Conception was. Do you know what the Immaculate Conception is?
Yeah, that's how Mary got impregnated without sex, the Virgin Mary from God.
Wrong.
Okay.
Do you not know that? You see, it's so funny how a lot of Catholics don't know dick about their own. Okay. The Immaculate Conception is the birth of Mary. It's the idea that Mary was born pure and therefore worthy of being the mother of Jesus. The Immaculate Conception means sex. It means conceiving. There's no conception with Jesus. There's the Annunciation. The angel comes down and says, "Psst, you're going to get pregnant, but it ain't your husband's."
Yeah, that's why I always thought it was immaculate, because there was no mess to clean up. But that's just
you can't have. But the word conception, it means sex. So I'm not making this up. And most Catholics I've met don't even know this. It's so stupid. And he's passed on now, but I had a priest in my family and all this stuff. So, and I remember when he used to come over for dinner, I knew more about Catholicism, and I didn't go to church anymore than my father, who still goes to church now. And I would say, "Dad, what's the Immaculate Conception?" I'd say, "Dad, what's the Immaculate Conception?" He'd go, "That's the birth of Jesus." And I go, "No, it isn't, right, Father Joe?" And my priest in our family would be like, "No, he's right, it's not." So I mean, and so if anybody thinks I'm kidding, because I know I've said a lot of silly things, that's absolutely true. Ask any Catholic priest, ask anybody who knows anything about Catholicism. Immaculate Conception is not the birth of Jesus; it is the birth of Mary.
And also, just so on your religion, sloppy seconds is the birth of Willie Nelson. Just so you know.
Right. Yeah, well, I knew that already. You don't have to tell me. But the thing about the Dead Sea
Oh, my bad.
The thing about the Dead Sea Scrolls, to go back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, is that these documents, these parchments, these writings that were collected and found in this cave near the Dead Sea in 1946 were from, like I said, the late 1st and 2nd century, were from the time that Rome controlled Judea and the Jews were fighting for their independence and were basically at the beck and call and control of the Roman Empire. This was before the Great Masada, the great fight that happened not too far away. And if you remember the Masada, for everybody who's ignorant out there, the Masada was the great fight where about, it might have been 1,000 Jews fought off the entire Roman Empire for like a year or so, but they kept breaking the gates and trying to get in, and eventually all those Jews committed suicide rather than become slaves to the Roman Empire, the Masada. And the funny thing is that we now have that site with another archaeological dig, but we didn't have that in 1946 when we found the Dead Sea Scrolls. And isn't it interesting that this proof of Judaism, at least the proof is that it's even older than you thought, happened right after the destruction of the Nazis in Europe and right before the formation of the Israeli state in 1948. That right in the middle, there would be this proof that would pop up. Isn't that interesting, that the timing of all that?
I would say that's a miracle.
Or PR. But okay. Well, good. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, maybe it is. It's the ultimate question, you know? It's the ultimate question.
It is, because you just like a lot of that kind of stuff, we're never going to really know, like why the timing of it, of discovering those was definitely sort of convenient. But like a lot of stuff, especially in the Bible, there's so much, coincidence or, alleged miracles and that sort of thing. So who knows what. That's what boggles my mind about all this stuff.
Yeah, well,
even with like the Force, is it with us all?
Well, George Lucas totally wrote those Star Wars movies with a religious bent and a messianic idea of Luke Skywalker, and as being a messianic sort of changing. The Jedis are even described in the movies as a religion,
Yeah.
And though they assume the posture of monks and samurais, they also are very much like Jewish scholars. And if you go back into Star Trek, do you know that this is a Jewish thing?
Really?
Yeah.
Live long and prosper?
This symbol is a Jewish thing. It's an old Jewish thing. You should actually look that up. And that's why Leonard Nimoy, a Jew, did that. It was something that from.
Wow, that's cool. It took me a long time to learn how to do that.
Really, it's extremely easy. But but us from my religion, we do this. Yeah. But anyway, which is better?
The Nelsons.
The Nelsons. You do the Nelsons. Because I mean, in Catholicism, you say like, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. In Nelsonian, you sing, crazy, crazy for feeling so lonely. I'm crazy, crazy for feeling so blue.
Yeah, he's got a good song book. He's got a good song. Yeah. In Nelsonian, do you have to stand, kneel, and sit constantly?
No, I'm actually doing everything right now. It's great. I'm practically a friggin' cardinal in the friggin' religion.
Just lounge like in a lawn chair.
Yeah. The only thing that we scorn is sobriety.
That's awesome. I might be interested. Do you have any pamphlets or anything you could send my way?
I had a couple of pamphlets, but I smoked them. So, but anyways.
Oh. They also rolling parchment.
Yes. But so the Dead Sea Scrolls, we're getting a little off. So the Dead Sea Scrolls, now, like just this past week or so, there was a whole new reevaluation of it. All the Dead Sea Scrolls are in the Israel Museum. And they have been there for the longest time, and the Jordanian government and the Palestinian government argue over who should own it. Isn't it funny that even to this day, all those schmucks can't get along? Because to me, they're all the same. I mean, to an atheist or a Nelsonian, to an atheist, they're all very similar. They're all almost exactly the same. There's only a couple of dietary or holiday differences, or that you wear different hats or different things like that. The only difference is that out of the three religions, Islam is the only one where nations are not up to modern life with their religion. They're fundamental. Like most Christian fundamentalists are outliers in the world. Christian fundamentalists are not running the government. You know what I mean?
Right.
And even Israel, which is Jewish, is not Jewish fundamentalists. Like the Essenes, who thought to be the people who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were radical. They were fundamentalists. They didn't allow women or children into their society. They expelled any sinners, which is the opposite of what Christianity was. Christianity says, you're a sinner, well, come to me and I'll forgive you, So it is the difference that sort of, but that's the Essenes. The Essenes are a radical group of Jewish priests, I guess the only word I could think of, that were thought to have been living in that area at the time and are thought to be the authors of the Dead Sea Scrolls.
So now that they found these new scrolls, is there any new information they're going to uncover that was written in there? Or is it just the Bible? Like, are these scrolls opening up any doors or answering any questions?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because I decided to, I very rarely pull my weight around because I like to remain humble. I know the hair doesn't look humble, and it isn't, but normally I'm a humble fellow. But what it is I called up Israel, that I have them on my phone, and I called up Israel and I made a deal to get one of the sacred parchments from the Dead Sea Scrolls to bring here today for the Great Goonan podcast. And in exchange, I lent them my DVD of Broadway Danny Rose. And so they lent me the sacred parchment, and I have the sacred parchment here. And I could read to you what it says and what it's about and what it means, if you like.
Yeah, that would be amazing. This is exclusive. Wow.
Yes, because
this is awesome.
Listen, I tried to inform people out there. So what they gave me was what was now found in this new archaeological dig. And it is thought to be the last page of the Bible. The last page.
Wow.
And it is
That's
the last writing in the Bible. It is thought to be how the Bible ends, for real. Would you like me to read it?
Yeah, I was always wondering the ending of the Bible.
Yeah. So it says here, and it's in Hebrew, that was translated then to Aramaic, then translated to Greek, and then for my sake they translated it to English, because the Broadway Danny Rose DVD I gave them is a Criterion collection with the extras, deleted scenes and stuff. So they gave me how the Bible really ends, and the Sacred Parchment says it here. And this is what it says. Just kidding.
Wow, that's the ending?
Yeah.
Wow. That's like a, kind of a, one of those type of endings that you didn't know. Like maybe God has a sense of humor.
I think he does have a sense. Have you ever seen a bunch of amateurs try to do a Long Island open mic? So I mean, yeah. Oh my God. So yeah, that's the end of the Bible. Just kidding.
Just kidding. Wow. And that was translated
from Hebrew to Aramaic to Greek to English. Nothing was really lost in translation. I was told, because they told me on the phone when I spoke to them that that's what it was saying, and they let me. I probably shouldn't have thrown it. It's a very old parchment, but I'll pick it up later and I'll send it back to them, and they better give me back my Broadway Danny Rose DVD. There you have it, folks.
One of the old hieroglyphics they found too.
There you have it, everybody.
One of the early hieroglyphics. Yes, indeed. So they're just kidding. So now we know.
Don, it is so difficult being so smart. I mean, I'm always teaching the world, solving things for people.
And now we got peace on earth because he was just kidding.
They were just kidding
the whole time.
Just kidding. Just kidding. The important thing is that everybody watching should read these things if it matters to them and make up their mind for themselves. And if it doesn't matter to them, I think you should read it anyway, because like I said, it has shaped and influenced the world, societies, the way we make laws, ever so. It is ever so. And it would be better to know these things just so you can win an argument about what the Immaculate Conception is in a Zoom discussion. But it's always good to know these things. And even though the Dead Sea Scrolls have been found, the archaeological dig of that area, a lot of the report of that archaeological dig, because there were several. In 55 there was another one, in 71 there was another one. That stuff hasn't been released to the public. The Dead Sea Scrolls are now released. They weren't always available. They're now available to read, and I've already read you the ending, so you don't really have to read it. But I suggest that you all go out there. And Don, you should read the Book of Enoch, or read it definitely about the Book of Enoch, because it does say those things. The funny thing about the Book of Enoch is that it does have those stories of the watchers, the angels that came down and begat half angel, half human people, which is sort of a magic idea that we don't have in the Bible now, but was a huge part of teachings of the 1st and 2nd century.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to check out the Book of Enoch. That's pretty cool. And then after I'm going to watch Land of Lost and see Enoch as well, and just get the whole thing going on. So this is
then you'll have the complete right, and then at night smoke a doobie and listen to some Willie. I think we've said it all. What do you think?
I think this has been great, and it never ceases to amaze me how much stuff you know. You're a plethora of information, my friend.
Listen, I can tell you what my IQ is. I had an IQ test as a young man. Well, my IQ is 878. I'm the smartest man in the world.
Wow. Wow. You are the great Goonan.
Yeah. In fact, sometimes when it's really quiet, you could hear my head just go wah, 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 because of my smart. Because only a man with an 878 IQ can make the perfect cocky joke.
That's right.
All right.
Because you work hard for your duty.
I suffer for my Deuteronomy, my duty-ronomy. You get it? It all connects like New York telephone. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. This has been the Great Goonan Podcast. That's Mr. Don Sill.
Yeah.
And I am Rabbi Charles Goonan, the great Rabbi Charles Goonan. Muchi, muchi, hi, muchi, muchi, ho. Peace.
You're sick in the head.